is Satan, right? Satan represents evil, and so in that sense, Satan does exist. Yes!
What's with all the Satan stuff all of a sudden?
Oh, your dad got him this video game called Satan's Little Helper. What the heck are you supposed to be, Wooly? Satan's Little Helper. Are you Satan? Can I be your helper? This could be our secret door to hell. Is all that stuff to take people up, kill them, and spill their guts out? Awesome! A pregnant lady! Brilliant boy!
Really into this, aren't you?
Oh, that's so real!
This psycho killed my dad, and he took my mom.
Does anybody have nails? Better watch out. Satan's getting you.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Do You Even Movie? I'm, of course, your host, Henrique Couto, here with my good buddy and co-host, David DeNoyer.
Greetings.
Shh.
Happy Halloween.
Shh. Satan will hear you.
Satan will hear us?
No, you specifically.
Me specifically?
You never shut up.
I'm not Satan's little helper.
Well, you don't help much of anything. But yes, happy Halloween. We're just a few days away from the big day, the spookiest day of the year. Second only to tax day.
Yes. Goddamn yes.
And and I'm very excited about the film we're bringing to you tonight. Unlike all of the previous episodes where I feigned enthusiasm, we're going to be talking about 2004's Satan's Little Helper.
That is correct.
And this is one that has definitely started to become a kind of classic.
Yeah.
It's aged very well, which is not something you can say for a lot of 2004 low-budget movies.
No.
And just the fact that it had a Synapse release on Blu-ray, I'm hoping will kind of cement it in that tradition.
Yeah.
Because there was a period of time where it was on a DVD you could barely find and a couple of random streaming services here and there for literally like a decade.
Well, and then there was the infamous Walmart bootleg.
Yeah, I have no idea how that happened, but there was a Walmart bootleg Blu-ray.
A bootleg Blu-ray of the TV cut that the director, Jeff Liberman himself, has no idea how it got out.
I mean...
Or how it was created.
Sure.
But I remember that was making the groups for a while, and it was really interesting to say the least.
I mean, you watched it?
No, just that it was a TV cut, because it was that and like I want to say like 4 or 5 other titles that were just like horror titles that somebody was just like, hey, keep an eye out at Walmart because these are popping up, and then it was just like, well, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah, no, I mean, I recall that they were a little bit of the Wild West there for a minute.
Oh yeah, absolutely, especially movies.
Well, I meant almost entirely with movies, because if you put out something kind of under the radar, I mean, I've caught companies releasing unauthorized versions of my movie or unauthorized copies of my movies and had to like contact them. I found out that some company I'd never heard of was licensing my film. And very strange.
It's like that poster we found recently for Babysitter.
Well, that you could just do with Photoshop.
Yeah,
but
true.
You know, putting the film on Tubi, literally, one of my films was on Tubi
really
unauthorized.
Pissed me off. God damn.
I mean, it was bizarre.
Yeah.
And the craziest part was the video master they had for the film looked like total shit. It was very clearly either off of the DVD Or no, I mean, really, that's the only maybe ripped off of. Well, it couldn't have been ripped off of Amazon Prime because it looked so bad.
Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised because when I contacted the distributor and they told me where they got the license from, and I told them, well, you can't do this. And then they were like, well, can we sign a deal with you?
Yeah.
And then I started getting the checks from it. It was, which is like the best case scenario.
Absolutely.
But yeah, one of the things I mentioned was I was like, do you want a better print?
Mm-hmm.
Like a master?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how they would even take that. I'm guessing they got the sob story of like, oh, it's the best I have and you can just pay whatever, in reality, because what do they care?
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. And those are just the openly villainous people in show business.
The ones who admit it to you and then ask if they can make a deal, not just full on steal. And
I don't think the distributor knew they were stealing it.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Maybe they did.
I was just shocked when we became friends and I got an insight.
I was also shocked.
Yeah, hell, are we still friends today is the
hell
question.
No.
But I was shocked when you explained to me how often it is that YouTube channels will straight up just steal stuff and put it on there. And then when I got to see it firsthand happen while I was sitting next to you, I was just like, wow.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that big of a problem.
Oh, God. I mean, I police it like crazy. In fact, I can look at my copyright. Let's just real quick. I mean, I'm not going to show it on screen.
No.
But let's see if there are any new thefts. Maybe. Oh, no, that's by. Okay, so that's legit. That's legit. Okay, so
all legit?
Looks like it, but a bunch of them just went up. So it looks like they're legit.
Okay.
Stash TV just started carrying found footage of the series.
Oh, gotcha.
Found TV. Oh, that's just my trailer. Yeah, it looks like these are legit.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, well, I check them weekly.
Yeah, I figured
and
you'd have
copyright strike violently.
I know you do.
Yeah, no. My favorite is when they send a message like, "I'm so sorry. Will you please remove the strike?" And I'm like, No. And then they're like, "But I didn't know." I'm like, "You didn't know that someone owned the content you were sharing?" My favorite is when they say, "Well, it was on YouTube already, so I thought it was okay." I was like, that doesn't
mean shit.
Any fucking sense. And of course, then the best move you can do is say, well, if you want to buy a license now, you can pay me and I'll count it as licensed. But then they're like, oh, so then I could reinstate the movie. I'm like, oh, no, the license is over.
Yeah.
Like you're paying me for when you had it up illegally.
Yeah.
And then they usually get mad.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, makes sense.
At which point I usually just send them a diagram of the fattest part of my ass they can kiss. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. So Halloween is in full swing.
It is.
I have not been to another haunt because all of my friends suck dick and don't want to go to a haunt on Saturday.
I was busy last week. I apologize.
I'm so sorry that you have your Halloween party invites.
We got together and we watched one really good Halloween movie and one that was fine.
That's a good way to put it. Hauntedween was a really awesome experience. Yeah. So, with that all being said, I'm not sure there's much more to say about the Halloween season other than one of the most exhausting of my entire life. 31 shows in 31 days.
Second year,
yes.
Yeah.
And last year was worse.
Yeah.
But this year was very, very busy.
I thought you were going to say very, very worse. But then you don't talk like me, so.
No, I don't. I talk good.
I talk good.
I talk.
Make me feel English that impossible.
I talk pretty one day.
So are you ready to get into Satan's Little
I don't
Helper?
even know what you mean.
All right, fair enough. Satan's Little Helper from 2004, 1 hour and 36 minutes, rated R for violence, gore, some sexual content, and language.
It is in English, which is a language.
That is correct.
That is one of my greatest pet peeves. I know what they mean.
Yeah.
But in the ratings, when it says language, it's like this film features language.
Strong language.
Strong language makes sense.
Pervasive language is one of my favorites,
Pervasive?
Too. Pervasive language. Bad Boys 2, I think, has that one, and a couple other, like, really strong F-word movies.
When it says pervasive, like, does it mean, like, occasional swearing? Because pervasive, like, in this context, Dave's going to look it up.
Now I'm curious.
Because I think pervasive, let's see, especially unwelcome spreading widely throughout an area. Yeah, I was right.
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
know what words mean.
Yeah, that's my favorite when they say that.
I just love when it just says "and language" because then I'm like, I don't watch movies with language. If they're speaking, I don't want it and I don't need it. And that is just the way. That's the way I was raised.
That's the way you were raised.
Young Denoyer.
Ah.
That's the way I was raised.
Fair enough. Well, our director and writer on the film is Jeff Liberman. He is both. He has done some writing credits, some directing credits, and shared both. In regards to Blade, is his first one in 1973. He also wrote The Neverending Story 3 in 94.
Oh yeah, there was a part 3. Jeez.
But then he is the writer and director on Squirm in 1976,
which is probably one of his most famous horror films.
I would say second to that is one we'll get to here in a second. Blue Sunshine in 77.
Yeah.
Which is another one that I think Shudder is carrying right now too. I've actually never seen it, and I've heard I've heard mixed reviews on it, but I'm really curious about it.
I haven't seen it in a good decade, but I remember it being really good.
He does Dr. Franken, writer and director on that in 1980, and then Just Before Dawn in 1981, the slasher movie. Remote Control in 1988, Satan's Little Helper 2004, and Love You to Death in 2006 with his John Waters. It was a true crime TV series where it was stories of newlyweds, of marriages, everything falling apart via true crime. I mean, I think I still have the DVD. It's fun.
Okay.
You also have him as a director on The Days and Nights of Molly Dodd in 1990, and But Seriously, the HBO series in 93.
Huh. I mean, I will go out on a limb and say Squirm is his most legendary.
Definitely,
the Killer Worm movie. Everybody remembers that poster. That poster was very creepy and freaky. That it was a DVD that was pervasive.
The fucking cover of his head just in the worms. Yeah, I heard
but it was
you.
pervasive.
Pervasive, yeah. I heard you. So he's our writer and director on the film. Our cinematographer on the film is Dejan Jorovich. He gets his start as a director of photography on Arthur Ashe, Citizen of the World in 1994, Crossing Fields in 97, My Sergi in 98, Now and Again in 99, Walter Rosenbaum in Search of Pitt Street in 99, Follow Me Outside in 2000, The Education of Max Bickford in 2002, Satan's Little Helper 2004, Cop Shop 2004, Hope and Faith, the TV series in 2005, Love Thy Neighbor, 3 Pounds, Cupid, Mercy, Spotlight on Broadway in 2013, Once in a Lifetime 2016, The Virtuoso in 2021.
Virtuoso?
Bella in 2023, and The Heart Stays recently in 2024.
Okay. Well, and there's a lot to say about the cinematography because this film was extremely early in the high definition
That is correct.
era, which I never would have guessed. I would have just assumed it was shot on standard definition because of the time period, but they would have had to literally rent one of potentially 5 cameras in the United States of America that were made by Sony and basically made for the Star Wars prequels.
Lieberman did confirm it is, in fact, the Star Wars camera.
It would make sense because there would not have been many. I believe that was the one of the earliest Sony Cine Ultas, which we are literally on 3 Sony cameras that are based on that technology, although many years removed.
Yeah. We're fancy.
I mean, or it's just a testament to how cheap technology's gotten now.
That's fair, too. IMDb synopsis for the film says, a naive young boy unknowingly becomes pawn of a serial killer.
That's what they say?
Yeah, a naive young boy unknowingly becomes the pawn of a serial killer.
Okay, that makes more sense when the "thes" in there.
Oh, yeah, I forgot the...
It's okay, buddy.
It's been a long day.
Sure.
My synopsis says, while trick-or-treating, a little boy comes across let me start. God, I can't talk. While trick-or-treating...
That won't help.
Fuck you.
Well, should we warn people there's language?
While trick-or-treating, a little boy comes across someone dressed as the killer from his favorite video game and falls victim to assisting him in multiple murders on Halloween.
I'm going to call that a wash.
That's fair. Yours
is good, but it's awfully wordy.
Yeah.
The good thing the IMDb synopsis has going for it is it's very brief, doesn't skip anything.
No.
So
our cast in the film is Alexander Brickel, who plays Douglas Dougie Woolley in this. He gets his start on Satan's Little Helper in 2004, and then Palindromes in 2004, and then nothing else.
Well, I mean, that's quite a career.
Resume?
Being the child in a Jeff Lieberman horror slasher movie.
Yep.
And then being in a Todd Solondz film.
Yeah.
One of his slightly less notorious ones. I actually like Palindromes a lot.
I think is more. I think is a cleaner film than most.
Well, it still deals with the heavy topics. It's just not like storytelling.
Where
it's
thinking of.
2 movies in one.
Yeah, even though one is 20 minutes and the other is
like an hour. Yeah. It's a weird choice. I like Palindromes a lot, especially because the point of the title is explained in the movie in a very artful way.
Yeah.
Palindromes was the first. Well, I saw Welcome to the Dollhouse first as far as Salon's movies, but that was because that played cable. But I went out and rented Palindromes when I was a teenager when it first came out.
Happiness was my first one. I went from Happiness to Welcome to the Dollhouse to Dark Horse, Storytelling, Palindromes, and then...
Oh, you saw Dark Horse that early? Because that was not that long ago.
Dark Horse I saw either the same year or a year after Happiness, because I bought Happiness the second time around.
Oh, so you've seen you? It's recent that you saw Happiness then.
Oh, Happiness was like 10 years ago.
I mean, Dark Horse was about 10 years ago. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I was curious when you see a movie on a list that is notoriously one of the most disturbing films ever created, and you just look at the cover and the synopsis of it, and you're just like, how is this so fucked up? And then you watch the movie and find out, then you're curious what else this man has done.
Sure. I mean, Todd Solondz became a very big name in the indie space for making movies that were very challenging in lots of different ways. I've liked his stuff since I first saw it, but I mean, for me, Welcome to the Dollhouse was literally on Showtime.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I caught it on TV and was like, what is this? I looked it up, and that's when I saw you in other movies. I didn't get a hold of Happiness for a few more years because it was kind of hard to get.
Yeah, that's why.
I mean, this would have been 2005, 2006.
I think I paid, shit you not, like $14 for that movie at that second time around.
I mean, I was never hunting for it.
Yeah.
Because I thought Palindromes was damn good. I thought Welcome to the Dollhouse was damn good. I think Todd Solondz is overall a very talented filmmaker and storyteller.
Could not agree more. Moving on down to our cast list, we also have Katheryn Winnick, who plays Jenna Woolley in the film. She gets her start in 99 on PSI Factor, Chronicles of the Paranormal. Student Bodies in 99.
Psi Factor. It's not a compressed air show.
Fair enough.
PSI.
Now that's PSI Factor.
What is your PSI Factor?
Nope, it's PSI Factor forever.
Okay, fair.
Student Bodies in 99, Relic Hunter in 2000, Tracker 2002, 2 Weeks Notice, Oz, 51st Dates, Satan's Little Helper, CSI Miami, 1-800-MISSING, Hellraiser Hellworld in 2005.
Now we're cooking.
CSI New York, Failure to Launch, 13 Graves, House, Law & Order, CSI, Killers, Love and Other Drugs, Night and Day, Bones, The Glades, Nikita, Stand Up Guys, the Transporter TV series, Vikings in 2013, which is one of her most famous series.
Okay.
The Art of the Steal in 2013, Person of Interest in 2015, The Dark Tower film in 2017, Speed Kills, Polar in 2019, The Marksman 2021, and Big Sky in 2023.
Man, I just did not connect because I've seen a bunch of those movies with her in them.
Was The Marksman good? I missed that one in theaters.
Was that the one with
Neeson.
Sean Penn?
That's the one with Neeson. No, you're thinking of The Gunman.
Oh, okay. The Marksman. Yeah, it was fine.
Okay.
I liked it.
Because it was during that period. Because like we saw, was his one Blind Spot or something like that? I'm trying to think, the assassin that's losing memory.
Yeah.
And then Blind Spot was the one that he did where he was the cop. And then the most recent one. Have you seen the one where he's in the car and there's a bomb in his seat?
No, I have not seen that one.
I can't remember what it's called, but I watched it. It's fine. It's pretty predictable.
You heard it here first. It's fine.
It's fine. Wrapping us up on our cast is Amanda Plummer, who plays Meryl Woolley. 114 credits on her resume.
Not surprised.
Gets her start in 1980 with Cattle Annie and Little Britches, ABC After School Specials in 82, The World According to Garp in 82, The Doll Maker, American Playhouse, Made in Heaven, Moonlighting, The Equalizer, Miami Vice in 89, Tales from the Crypt in 89, True Blue, Joe versus the Volcano, L.A. Law, The Fisher King in 91, Lounge People, Free Jack, So I Married an Axe Murderer in 93, Needful Things in 93, and then in 94 she stars in a little film called Pulp Fiction.
That definitely put her on the map because she was so memorable in that role.
Yeah, Unhinged. The Prophecy in 95, Final Cut in 95, Freeway, Duckman, Under the Piano, Hercules, A Simple Wish, 8.5 Women in 99, $1 Million Hotel, The Outer Limits, Get a Clue, Night Visions, My Life Without Me, Satan's Little Helper in 2004, Law & Order SVU in 2004, Battlestar Galactica, Red, Vampire, Small Apartments, Phineas and Ferb, Hunger Games Catching Fire, Hannibal TV series, The Dancer in 2016, Ratchet in 2020, and most recently Picard in 2023.
Yeah, no, she's one of those few female character actors that hit relatively young.
Yeah.
And just was in, I mean, in the 90s, she was in just about anything that was worth watching. She was cast very well.
You can find her in a lot of stuff back in the 90s, especially.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, popping up. Satan's Little Helper is currently available on Screenbox, Tubi, Roku, and we have it on authority that it may or may not be available on Shudder as you're hearing this.
Well, we're pretty certain that this has just aired on The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs on Shudder for his Halloween Beelzebub bash.
Correct.
So, you can find it, kids, and it's a great Halloween watch.
I cannot wait to. I had such a great time watching him host it.
We sure did.
So, what was your first time seeing Satan's Little Helper?
Well, it was during a time when I was hunting down all of my Halloween movies, movies that take place on Halloween that are a part of that celebration, and I found it initially on a. It was actually on Cinemageddon on the trading service.
Yeah.
This was, I mean, we're talking 2009.
Wow.
Maybe 8. I'd seen it on a list. It said Satan's Little Helper, and then I looked to buy it. The DVD was, as it had been a lot, in and out of print.
Yeah.
Streaming was not quite where it would be in a few more years, and I was broke, and, I made choices that I only modestly regret. But I remember watching it and being extremely surprised.
Yeah.
I was not expecting the movie we got, in that it looks very TV movie to an extent, and it's very kind of the opening, the first 20 minutes or so is very beautiful daytime, whatever. But the writing is super tight and super specific.
Yeah.
And on top of that, one of the things I praise the most about this movie is you can really tell Liberman had made a lot of movies quite a while ago.
Yeah.
It had a modern look, a modern aesthetic, modern characters, modern dress, obviously, because it was made in a modern time at the time. It was made in 04 or 03, 02 in that area. It was when it was shot. But it had a very old school movie mentality. The musical score is very traditional in a really fun and good way.
Yeah.
And the presentation style is the directing is very old school. That's the best way I could put it.
No, that's a good way to put it.
And I really think that's what made the movie stand out and last, because it's really solidly made and solidly directed. So I remember after the first time I watched it, I was just mad about it. That's why I started getting obsessed with, like, where can I get a copy? And then I bought a Vudu copy at one point so that I could watch it every year. And I've loved it ever since, and I've always sung its praises ever since seeing it. What about you? Well,
I'm sure it comes as no surprise that you were the one that turned me on to this film, because I was working at the TV station at the time, and back when I was working for the TV station, I had a lot of days where, and frankly, it was just me in this building, so I really had no supervision. Which you require. Yeah, well, sometimes. But so I would spend hours editing and watching stuff on Netflix in the office and whatnot, and this was one that I came across, and I remember texting you, and I was like, I feel like I've heard you talk about this, like, is it worth it? And I remember, like, your exact text back was like, fucking watch it right now.
And I was like, oh man, you got to put that on.
Yeah, so I remember putting it on and just being baffled, but also really amused with where it was going.
Oh, sure.
Because you think you kind of have an idea when it starts, and then by the beginning of the third act, you're like, what the hell is going on? Because I give props to anybody that can make a town on a frenzy movie for a low budget.
Well, and I think that what the film really does well that takes you by surprise is it is an incredibly simple story.
Yeah.
A mother and son go to pick the daughter up from college to be in town. It's Halloween. They're going to go trick-or-treating. But it gets progressively more complex and complicated, but in a way that you can still follow.
Yeah.
And by the time you're in that third act, more than hell is broken loose. It's completely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It really, that's what makes it so memorable, is once that third act starts, it's just so nuts.
Yeah.
But everything makes sense. Everything pays off. And it's just really, the script is just so tight and well thought out. And it's one of these films that has a bunch of false endings, but they're not quite obnoxious because every time you think it's over and it keeps going, it doesn't do the exact same thing again and again.
Yeah.
It really just keeps you guessing.
Well, and you think it's getting really weird towards the end, and then it's just like certain things happen. You're just like, well, what does that mean? And then it all literally lines up perfectly.
Yeah, no, exactly. Everything has a payoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you ready to get into it?
What the fuck?
All right. So we meet
language. Pervasive.
We meet Dougie in the car with his mom, Meryl, as he is playing Satan's Little Helper, which is a handheld video game where you are a little devil character with your Satan friend going around just causing havoc. You're stabbing people, you're pushing people into traffic and whatnot. It's a pretty hilarious opening.
Well, and the video game is like flash animation cartoon
it's low quality
from the early 2000s, but that quality is very endearing as you're running around basically murdering this town.
Well, it's like, have you fucking seen those ads that are for that game where you're a soldier or something and you have a gun and you're shooting these barrels that have these numbers of how many bullets you have to have hit them, and then you unlock the weapons or you unlock more men?
I think so.
Okay, those ads have been going all over, and it wasn't until recently that Anthony Starr of The Boys, I guess sponsored, co-opted, is the spokesperson for an actual version of that game, except it is that game, but there's also a city building game hidden inside of it.
Okay.
Because that game, that ad has been a fake ad for years and has been fooling a lot of people, because I've bought like 3 of those games like thinking it's that game, and it's absolutely not.
Oh, you mean the misleading advertisement?
Misleading advertising.
Yeah, they do that all the time where they show gameplay that's not of the game that they're getting you to download.
No, all the damn time.
Yeah, it's pretty constant.
It's pretty annoying.
Oh, cry about it.
I've bought so many. Like, the only one that actually lived up to its hype has been BitLife.
Well, BitLife doesn't even have graphics.
Nope.
So it's pretty easy to live up to.
It is. So he's playing his game, and we also find out that they're driving to the ferry to pick up his sister, Jenna. Meryl, his mom, is on the phone with her friend talking about her costume, which is going to be a Chiquita banana woman.
I mean, that's one way to put it.
Yeah, it's Amanda Plummer. It's weird.
I mean, she's basically one of those traditional dancers with the fruit bowl on top of her head.
That is correct. So they're going to pick up Jenna, his sister, at the ferry, and we also find out that Dougie's a bit infatuated with his sister. His mom even makes an incest joke about it, but it's not anything that's like blatant. It's more so she's literally joking about
how Dougie says, I'm going to marry her, but that's establishing that Dougie's very young.
Yeah.
He doesn't really understand what that means.
No, and his mom says something along incest, and he's like, you said sex, and he's like, no, I said incest.
Yeah, well, because her comment to her friend on the phone is, I don't think they covered incest in the third grade.
Yeah, that's right. So his mom and he arrive at the ferry, and Dougie gets out, and he runs out, and he's shouting to Jenna, and that's when he also finds that Jenna is on the ferry, and she says hi back to him. The ferry parks, and they go and embrace each other, and that's when we find out that Jenna has also brought a boyfriend home this time.
Well, it's their first date, David.
It's their
Don't
first
label
date.
things.
It's their first date, and Dougie is upset because he wanted to go with Jenna because he wants to find Satan while they're out trick-or-treating tonight.
Which all kids should.
All kids should, absolutely. So he wants to find Satan, and he does not want Alex tagging along with them. We also missed a part where his mom is asked by him, is there a Satan? Is Satan real? And that's when she says, well, Satan's actually represented by evil all over the world. So in a sense, there is Satan, but it's not like a singular person with the horns and the tail, which upsets Dougie. And then she's like, but with somebody who's got a cute outfit as you, I'm sure you can find your Satan.
Yes, and then he's like, thank goodness, I just needed to know the devil was real, mother.
The devil was real, yes. So that is when Jenna and Alex go back to the house, and they are all in the car, and on the ride over, she also informs them that Alex might be staying over with them. They're just kind of waiting because there's something going on with Alex and his dad.
Yes, well, because one thing that's worth mentioning is they met at college, but they grew up in the same island.
That's
so
correct.
He's tagged along with her, but may not actually want to visit home because they not so subtly suggest that he and his father really don't get along.
Do not get along. And also, Dougie is talking to Jenna about how he wants to see Satan and his costume's awesome. And that's when she's asking her mom, well, what's going on with Satan? She's like, oh, he's just obsessed with this video game. Just let him have it.
And it's worth mentioning that both his sister and her beau go to acting school.
Yes.
Which makes them insufferable.
Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Fair enough. All right. So Dougie is a little upset because when he finds out that Alex might be staying the night and also trick-or-treating with them, he decides that he is checking out, so he pulls his mask down and he's back into his game. So they return home, and her mom is talking about the plans they have, asking if they have costumes, and she's like, well, we didn't really have anything. And she's like, oh, I've got one just for you. Come with me, leaving Dougie with Alex, but Dougie goes away from Alex pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, he's not a fan.
He is not a fan at all. So Dougie goes out and walks into the neighborhood. He gets harassed by some of the neighbor kids. They're asking him what his costume is, and he says he's Satan's little helper, and they're like, oh, well, that's gay, and they laugh at him. And Dougie's like, no, it's not.
Well, they're all dressed as ninjas, which is friggin' based.
So Dougie's like, he walks off, and the kids ride off behind him. That's when Dougie walks across the street and sees somebody dragging a body onto the porch. But the mask is what catches his eye, because the mask looks a lot like Satan from the video game.
It is definitely a devilish mask, although no red. Which I like, actually.
I do like that, yes. So that's when he sees him dragging the body onto the porch. Back at the house, Meryl works on Jenna's costume, which is a wench that she had wore the previous year, and they're also discussing why Alex is staying over. That's when we find out that Alex and his dad do not have a good relationship. His dad wants him to take over a wig store, not be an actor in school.
A toupee store.
Apologies.
There's not, what's air quotes
I don't
about
know.
toupee?
I don't know.
It is a toupee store.
You're a toupee store.
You know what? If it pays the bills.
If it toupees the bills.
Hey! Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Do You Even Movie. Bye.
So we find out that Alex and his dad have some outs, and that he wants to stay over because he kind of wants to avoid his dad, because his dad doesn't even know he's in town.
Right.
So that's when she finishes the costume. Jenna looks at herself in the mirror, and she is very happy with her final look. She even starts doing a little winch talk to herself. Back with Dougie, though, he's watching Satan as he drags the man off the porch, observing another body that we see is now real with a knife stuck into it. He positions it, puts some dirt on it, and that's when we also realize that this guy's really killing people.
Oh, yeah. No, it's very clear. He's murdering people and doing one of the most classic Halloween myths, which has turned out to be somewhat true on occasion.
Yeah.
Which is hiding dead bodies, or dead bodies being mistaken for Halloween decorations.
So he positions on the porch, he walks off. Dougie is watching behind him, and some of the kids walk past Satan, and Satan kind of messes one of them, and they run off screaming, and that's when Dougie decides that he's going to follow Satan.
Well, I mean, who wouldn't?
So he follows the man, but back at the house, Alex enjoys a round of Satan's Little Helper on a handheld, and Jenna comes down the stairs showing off her costume. Alex calls her stunning, and she asks, what is he going to be? And Alex says that he's been thinking about that, but with Dougie's love for this Satan character, why don't he be Satan, and he could be his little helper for Halloween? That'll make him happy. Hopefully they can be friends.
And she thinks it's a really great idea.
Yeah, she thinks it's cute. So back with Dougie, the Satan man has now drug out another person, put him in a fake cemetery, and he's also put some dirt on top of him again.
Well, he has, because there was a fake cemetery in the guy's front yard.
In the front yard,
so he's adding him to his own Halloween decorations.
And puts the tombstone behind him. I mean, it's really funny.
Yeah, he's arranging him.
Yeah, places a flower on him, and that's when Dougie still went over and laughs. This catches Satan's attention as he looks up at him, and Dougie's like, oh. Well, then Satan also looks off to the side, and we see that cops are driving by. So Satan tries to look busy, and Dougie also kind of does the same. And as the cops drive by, that's when Satan gets up and he starts walking. Dougie goes up to him and asks him if he's Satan. The man walks right past him. Then he grabs onto his arm, and he's like, are you Satan? Do you need a helper? And that's when the figure looks at him, silent in the mask, and then shakes his head, yes.
Well, and that's one thing that makes Satan in this very fun to watch, is he's... to the adults, he's like Michael Myers.
Yeah.
He's just silent and staring and kind of ominous. But to the little boy, Dougie, he's really like a mascot.
Oh, yeah.
Like he acts like a sports mascot that's talking to kids. He's waving and turning his head and kind of acting all cute and kind of miming around, which begins such a chilling exchange where he just says, like, are you Satan? And he nods his head slowly. And he's like, can you talk? And he nods his head, yes. But you don't have to talk. And he's like, no. And then, so it's like, it's terrifying.
Oh, it's absolutely terrifying, because Dougie, if we failed to mention it, is like an 8-9-year-old kid. So, I mean,
we mentioned third grade.
Yeah,
so
he believes all this is make-believe. He thinks that this is all pretend, basically.
Well, he doesn't really understand the difference between make-believe and reality.
Yeah.
And like I said, they established that very well with the whole thing where he says, I'm going to marry my sister. He just knows that's the most beautiful girl he's ever seen.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand what marriage really entails or anything like that, God willing. I mean, this is Massachusetts, not Mississippi. But Yeah,
you know.
Sorry to my Mississippi people.
So-
that was an easy joke.
Dougie also asks how many points did he get for killing the old man, and the Satan guy goes like this, which means 20 points.
He signals 20 with his hands.
Yep. And Dougie asks if they can send Alex to hell, because that's what Dougie wants, and Satan Man shakes his head yes, and they begin towards Dougie's house.
He nods his head yes.
Nods his head, yes. Shut up. So back at Dougie's house, Meryl prepares some special cider, because that was one thing Lieberman said on the special features, is you could have a drinking game by how many times she mentioned cider in this movie.
Oh, and she always has this look on her face when she talks about cider.
Yeah. So she's getting some special cider for Jenna and Alex, while the news reports talks about a local arsonist some years back that started a lot of fires on Halloween. She goes to gather some special cider mugs as we see Dougie and Satan in the backyard outside the window, and he displays his karate moves for Satan, and he also tells him, hey, man, I've got an entrance here to the cellar. This can be your secret entrance to hell, as they walk over to the cellar, and he shows him. Satan opens the cellar, and they go around inside, and that's when his mother calls for him to come up so they can tell him the news, because by this point, both Alex and Jenna have told him the idea for Alex to be Satan for Halloween.
And Dougie's not really feeling it, but then he plays it cool.
He plays it cool because they bring him up, and that's when he tells him that he's going to be Satan, and he's like, no! And then he's like, well, hey, how about you go to the costume shop with me? This is Alex. How about you go to the costume shop with me, and we'll figure out my costume, and then we'll go trick-or-treating. That's my order for you, as you're my helper. So he's trying to play along with the kid.
Yeah, he's trying.
And that's when Dougie is like, oh, you and me go to the costume shop by ourselves? Yeah, we can do that.
And it's important to point out, if you've never seen this film, you really should.
Yeah.
Basically, what it appears, and we have to infer all of this from the film, because nothing is ever stated directly, is that whoever is in this Satan costume had been plotting some kind of a killing spree on this little island community in Massachusetts, possibly for a long time.
I would say so.
Because the fact that he's murdering people in their front yards, leaving them out, willing to pose for photographs with his decorations.
Yeah.
That alone is pretty bizarre.
It's pretty eerie.
But as we progress and we see the level of planning.
Grim.
I mean, well, grim is true, but also so intricate and thought out.
Yeah.
There's no way he just kind of threw this together in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, this was a plan, and the only thing that wasn't in his plan was having a little helper.
Indeed. So Dougie and Alex head out to the store as Meryl and Jenna watch them as they go back into the kitchen, and that's when we see Satan rise outside of the window of the house, and that's when he starts following Dougie and Alex.
And this is when things start to get hinky.
So Dougie and Alex arrive at the costume shop as Alex starts looking at masks. He tries one on, and Alex or Dougie's like, that's not Satan's mask. And he's like, well, hey kid, I'm trying to find one that looks the closest like my dad, because that's where I can draw inspiration from for the Satan character.
Well, and he earlier mentioned, like, I lived with Satan my whole life, so why wouldn't I be able to play him?
So Alex finds his mask. He starts doing a voice mocking his father, and Dougie is annoyed by this, so he tells him to hurry up. Outside, two teens harass Satan as he's waiting outside the costume shop. They're like, hey, Satan, where's your pitchfork? And Satan responds by just putting up two middle fingers.
Gives them the double bird.
Double bird enthusiastically, like very strong.
Oh, yeah, very much.
So that's when they drive off, and Dougie takes Alex outside now in his Satan mask. And that's when he tells him that, okay, are you ready for Satan to get you? Satan confirms that this is who Dougie is talking about. And suddenly around the corner, Alex is attacked by Satan.
Yes, and he's wearing his Halloween mask, which is an old man, like an ugly
Dick
old
Tracy
man head,
old man villain almost,
kind of, with a bald head. But he bought a little wig to put on top, symbolizing, I would assume, his father's toupee. And now he's just ramming his head into a brick wall.
Kicks him on the ground, punches him on the ground, throws him through a fence, throws him into some trash cans, and then throws him back into the wall again.
And then I believe shortly after this, he places his body on a porch.
That is correct. So Alex's body gets placed on a nearby porch. He puts him on a couch and puts a decoration on him. I think it's a hat. Or no, it's a pitchfork.
Yeah. He puts a pitchfork
on him,
like on his body.
But Satan's not done, because animal lovers beware. There's a nearby black cat that's meowing, and Satan just picks it up, smashes it, killing it against the wall, and writes boo in its blood on a piece of wood on the door.
Yeah, it basically uses a cat as a number 2 pencil.
That is correct. And while this is happening, two young girls with their mother ask Satan to pose with Alex as for a picture, not realizing that he's a real person. They think he's a prop. So Satan cutely poses, and she's like, oh, thank you. And
you made our whole day.
Family wanders off. So back at the house, Dougie returns without Alex, and Jenna asks where he is. Dougie tells her that helpers don't tell on their masters, and that's when he comments that he can also see her boomies.
I can see your boomies.
The doorbell rings then as Jenna opens the door, and Satan rushes in, grabbing Jenna, who immediately thinks it's Alex, and she's won over by his costume as Satan, and he begins to caress her costume in return.
Yeah, so Satan is wicked handsy.
Yeah.
And of course she's taken aback by this, but, and this is my point, young David.
Uh-huh.
Because she is a theater kid.
Yeah.
This guy she's interested in, who is also a theater kid, being in a mask and getting handsy with her. Oh, this is just fun because theater. Mm-hmm. So he is just going ape, pawing at her.
Yeah.
And she's kind of playing up the wench outfit and talking to him in a silly accent.
Yeah.
And these scenes are very funny because while she's saying other things and he's supposed to be distracted, Satan is just focused on feeling her
focused
up.
on her, and Dougie the whole time is like, "That's not Alex." Like, and she's like, "Oh yeah,
I know
Satan.
it's Satan because he's such a good actor. We go to acting school."
So Meryl comes down showing off her piece of the costume, which is the fruit hat, and that's when she tells him, "Oh my God, I've got to get a camera." So Jenna makes her way upstairs, playfully playing with Satan, still thinking it's Alex, and Satan follows her up the steps.
And how?
So she waits, calling to him in her room. As he enters her room, she starts to comment on his mask, but quickly he shuts the door and starts like stripping off her costume a little bit and caressing her body still. Jenna gets into the moment, and that's when she tries to kiss him by removing his mask, but he does not want his mask removed.
I wonder why.
So he stops her, and she tells him, "All right, well, have it your way." They continue, and that's when Jenna gets into the moves a little bit. Then she tells him that she's had enough, and she goes to walk away, but Satan grabs her, throwing her against the wall, and that's when Jenna's like, "You're really into this, aren't you?" And just clearly unsettled by it.
Well, and he slowly nods when she asks that.
So suddenly Dougie enters asking, "Oh, are you getting her?" And then he also becomes visibly uncomfortable, and he's like, "It's just pretend, right?" And that's when Satan confirms, and also she confirms that it is. They go back downstairs, and Dougie tells her once again that that's not Alex. Jenna going along with it, she's like, "Yeah, I know it's Satan." So Satan then goes over and locks the door. Dougie laughs, telling him not to get her because that's his sister, and he wants to protect her. Meryl then comes down with the camera, ready to take a picture, but Satan grabs it and starts taking one of the mom's legs.
Mm-hmm. This is one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah. Because
it's right before we go into the full-blown terror territory.
Yeah.
Terror-tory, if you will.
Yes.
But the way he interacts with the mom and daughter, the way he's just like completely devoid of embarrassment or shyness, he's just as unleashed as the fact that he's killing people is with them, but they're all just kind of trying to roll with it as like good, clean Halloween fun, which, I mean, I guess depending on how you grew up, it kind of is.
Yeah. So Jenna comments that's a bit weird, and Dougie tells Satan that he wants to show him his room as they go upstairs, and we see Dougie playing with his toys in his room with Satan, which is a really sweet scene.
Oh, it's so wholesome, almost as wholesome as the shopping cart scene later. But
damn it, I forgot my water.
Oh, well, you know what they say.
What? So
that's what you'll be saying.
So that's when downstairs the doorbell sounds as Meryl comments that she forgot to buy candy. She immediately goes to get her billfold and starts giving the kids dollar bills at the door.
Well, I mean, that's what you do when you're desperate.
Meryl tells Jenna that maybe she has some candy from last year, and Jenna's like, "You gotta be kidding me." Up in the room, Dougie starts playing Satan's little helper, showing off his skills, which pleases the Satan. Downstairs, Meryl and Jenna find out that they have no candy, so Meryl tells her that she's going to a Halloween party at a local castle that her friends have rented, and she also has to bring a keys, which she forgot about, on top of the candy, and she just starts freaking out, and Jenna's like, "Mom, calm down, it's Halloween, everything will be okay." The doorbell sounds again, and Satan seems nervous, so Dougie asks him, "Why are you nervous?" And that's when he's like, "Wait, is it God? Can God disguise himself as a trick-or-treater?"
The kid really writes the lore for Satan in this.
So they go down to look, and it's just more trick-or-treaters. Jenna asks then if Satan and Dougie will go to the local grocery store to get candy, and Satan at first is like, no, and that's when Dougie's like, Satan doesn't shop, and that's when Satan tells him to pause, and that's when he's like, no, we'll do this.
Well, he doesn't say it.
No, he totally says it.
Oh. The one part where he talks and I forgot all about it.
No, he shakes his head, yes, and that's when Jenna asks, Jenna's still thinking it's Alex, thanks Satan for hanging out with Dougie and tells him that he deserves an Oscar.
Aww.
So Satan pushes back, and that's when they go outside, and he joins Dougie, asking Satan where did he put Alex, and can he see? Satan wags his finger and shakes his head no, and that's when we cut back to Alex, who starts to move, revealing that Alex is not dead. He wakes up, he tries walking down the steps, but unfortunately falls because he's beaten, bruised.
Well, I mean, he was literally left for dead.
Assaulted and left for dead.
I mean, when you're left for dead, it must have been a pretty good beating.
Attempted manslaughter.
Attempted manslaughter? I would say that the murders are at least relatively premeditated.
I would say.
He may not have planned to kill that guy, but he was planning to kill a lot. So, I mean, at best, second-degree homicide. But I'm not a lawyer. But I am a simple country lawyer.
So at the grocery store, Dougie and Satan walk the aisles as Satan grabs some rope, some stabbing implements of various cooking utensils, hardware, also some tape. And that's when Dougie asks, is that so they can tape people up, kill them, and spill their guts? And that's when Satan shakes his head again.
Nods his head.
Damn it. And Dougie gets excited, but then makes him swear that, no, not my mom and not Jenna. You have to swear, like do the oath.
Yeah, and he shows him this oath from the video game.
Yeah.
A kind of arm signal that is a little Nazi-y.
I love that he says even in pretend. Like, do not kill my mom and my sister, even in pretend.
Right.
So that's when Satan does a salute and tells Dougie to grab all the candy that he wants by basically Dougie asking, what about the candy? And that's when Satan just points to the aisles. So Dougie grabs candy, Satan checks out, but he doesn't exactly because they completely leave without paying.
And I have to say, it's one thing to murder the kindly people of this small town.
Uh-huh.
But America's grocers are hurting in this economy. How could you, sir? How do you sleep at night? Murderer, fine. Stealing groceries. This is how food deserts have happened in this country.
Happened.
And yeah, this is a terrible thing.
All right.
Speaking of terrible things.
So Dougie even states that they didn't pay and starts laughing, pulling his mask down as they exit the store. But we also see that a clerk starts following them. He catches up to them, and Dougie tells the clerk that he's Satan's helper and that Satan doesn't have to pay for anything. And for this, he shall die. And of course, the grocer's like, yeah, kid, I don't have time for games. Satan wastes no time offing this guy, stabs him in the gut, and then throws him into a trash. And that's when Dougie's like, wait till he wakes up smelling like garbage.
Yeah, that'll show him with his guts everywhere.
So he tells him 20 points as he pushes Dougie into the cart, and that's when we have probably one of the most memorable scenes as they just start causing havoc in a parking lot because Dougie thinks, again, that they're playing the game, so he's just like, hey, run into that pregnant lady, run into that baby carriage, run into that blind man, and they do.
It's just this high-paced montage of them mowing people over.
Yeah.
And it's... It literally is like a video game level, though. It's like they hit one person and, there's a blind guy.
Yeah.
Then, there's a one with a carriage. There's a what? Like, they just start ramming through everybody. The way it's shot is really fun and chaotic, and there's some good little stunt scenes in it. I really think that's the most wholesome the film gets.
Most wholesome it gets.
Because they were spending time together, David.
So Dougie is so thrilled, calling out various points before Satan pushes the cart towards the sunset, and Dougie asks him, hey, can you take me to hell? And Satan nods his head, and that's when Dougie cheers. So Dougie gets to go to hell now.
Finally, he's been waiting all day.
So night falls as Dougie and Satan arrive back in front of the house, and Dougie states, or in front of a house, not their house. Dougie states that he wanted to trick or treat with Jenna, but Satan shakes his head, and that's when he tells Dougie, or Dougie says that he'll stay behind and watch for God. As Satan goes towards the house, he rings a doorbell, and we see an old lady inside with a walker is making her way slowly towards him, and she's just like, oh, you're a little old to be trick or treating, and she's dropping candy, and this scene goes on for like a minute solid.
It's very funny, especially because we know that there's a homicidal maniac waiting as she's just like, in a second, keep your pants on.
So naturally, she gets to the door, and he pushes her and her walker aside. Outside, Dougie is confronted by the bullies again, and they're like, where's your Satan, kid? And that's when all their attention is drawn to the front of the house as the woman is now hanging by a rope outside of the house.
And this is very startling. It's very well done.
Yeah.
So we see in whole just a shot of the side of the house with her hanging straight from the gutter by her throat, kicking and gagging, and those kids immediately just go, holy shit, and they fuck right off.
Yeah.
But that's one of those moments that really made this film stand out because that was a hell of a set piece and a hell of a stunt.
Yeah.
Very startling.
more stunts on their way, because now that Dougie has seen what's going on, he also realizes that Satan has raided the medicine cabinet before he returns to him, and they ride off again. That's when we see Alex arrive to a house, clearly his father's home, as Alex calls to him. His dad is in the shower with a woman who says that she didn't know he had a son, and that's when he's like, yeah, I got a son, he's in college.
Can you believe it? Because I look so young with this full head of hair.
And that's when we also find out that this woman is his secretary.
Well, of course. I mean, who else are you going to spend Halloween night with?
So the woman states that it sounds like he's in trouble, as outside Alex sees Satan and Dougie, so Alex runs off as Satan goes to the door in Alex's place. The woman comes to the door, amused by the costume, thinking it's Alex, and that's when she's like, wait till you see what your son's wearing. That's when Satan quickly grabs the woman and throws her against the wall, knocks her out, and kills her, basically.
Oh, yeah.
So that's when Alex's dad comes downstairs, scolding his son for the mask, and we next see that Alex's dad is just chucked through the glass of the front door right in front of Dougie, who laughs once again.
Well, and it's worth pointing out that when he thinks it's his son, he tells him, like, what are you doing wearing your shoes in my house? And
Raises his hand,
earlier we'd established that his son, when he goes into their house, he starts taking his shoes off. He's like, oh, no, it's a habit I have. I have to take my shoes off. So he's like, what are you doing with your shoes on? And then he pulls his hand back like to give him a backhand, and Satan doesn't react.
No.
Which I'm assuming, with his actual son, his son would have cowered.
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't even have to hit him anymore. He would just, scare the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And at that point, his eyes get wide, and he's like, what are they teaching you in that college? Which is, by the way, the answer is nothing. Because he's in acting school. So they taught him, maybe they taught him how to annoy your friends.
God.
But
So Dougie and Alex wander through a cemetery now as Alex asks for candy, and that's when Satan gives him a bottle of meds, and Alex asks if he should mix it with the candy so people get sick and puke their guts out, and Satan nods his head. But suddenly the police arrive, calling to Satan for him to freeze. Dougie is then decides that he's going to flee back home by Satan's guidance, and that's when he runs towards the house. Dougie gets back home as Jenna asks, where's Alex? And Dougie shares his adventure details, basically saying that, they're going to tape people up, spill their guts out, and she's not amused at all.
Worth mentioning, Satan's reaction to the cops is zero concern.
Zero concern.
He's just like, he just basically tells him to go along. Satan appears to be nonplussed and not at all afraid of the police officers.
Nope.
And we're going to find out why here very soon.
Yeah, so that's when Jenna is like, excuse me, do you know what you're saying? And that's when Jenna tells Dougie to fill up the candy because there's more trick-or-treaters, and she wants to talk to Satan when he gets back. So Dougie goes to the door, and there's the bullies from earlier are at his door, and they're harassing him again, like, why aren't you out trick-or-treating because you can't find Satan? Dougie then offers them some candy, grabbing the pills and handing them over, and he laughs, and he says, enjoy Halloween, and then he shuts the door.
They're gonna poop themselves to death.
So in town, Alex wanders the streets, runs into a man warning him that the cops have been found dead, the police station's on fire, and there's only 2 cops left on the whole island.
This is such a memorable scene because the guy is in this weird Quasimodo outfit, and at first he talks like Quasimodo. He's like, the constables shall all be dead, the town is on flame, and he's like, dude, what the hell? He's like, dude, you need to get out of here, man. There are only 2 cops left on the entire damn island.
And by this point, also, the town is starting to go crazy. We're hearing
people are running
explosions,
around.
We're hearing glass breaking, there's fires.
Definitely fire, too. And there's something about island communities that can be so inherently scary because you're even if you have a bridge to the community, then it's just one way to get there. And if it's by ferry only, then it's even slower. There's something about island communities where it's like you feel like you're on the mainland until you absolutely don't feel like you're on the mainland.
That's fair.
And this is a very good example of that.
So back at the house, Meryl takes a quiche out of the oven for her party as Jenna worries about Alex and what she was told by Dougie about cutting and poisoning people. The doorbell sounds again as we see Satan Man has returned. Jenna looks through the groceries, appalled at finding the knives and bloody rope, asking, this is all a pretty sick, don't you think? And that's when Satan nods his head yes.
Yeah, every time he nods his head yes is so freaking awesome and scary.
And even more scarier, he wanders over to the door, locking it again, before walking back slowly to Jenna, who's freaked out. She tells him to stop, it's not funny, and say something. Satan then takes the bloody rope back from her, brandishing it threateningly at her, and that's when she also notices that his shoes do not match Alex's shoes.
Yes, so because he's wearing a Halloween costume, he had like booties, black booties over his shoes.
Yeah.
And now they've ripped and are showing some very distinct looking loafers. That are like a kind of a maroon and white. And that's when she immediately realizes 100% That is not Alex.
That is not Alex. So Dougie comes back down, telling him to get him so he can go to hell, and that's when Satan shakes his finger at Jenna, basically warning her. He joins Dougie, and Meryl comes back in, stating that since her husband isn't here, she's going to go ahead and head to the Halloween party without him, but Jenna interrupts her, telling her that Satan isn't Alex. Jenna calls to Dougie to come down, but there's only silence. The doorbell sounds again as Meryl orders Dougie to come down and pass out the candy. He does. He opens the door to find his father there, who is dressed as a businessman, so he says, but it's just a joke.
And it's important to keep in mind that the mother doesn't believe her because she assumes it's some more of that acting school bullshit.
Yeah, that it's a giant game, basically. So that's when the dad comes in, and he also admires Meryl's Chiquita costume, and he also comments on Dougie's costume. They start to dance a little bit, and that's when Meryl tells him that the elf costume is upstairs that she picked out because he left the costumes to her. He asks why there's a cop car outside, and Jenna grabs Dougie, telling her dad that someone is in the house. Meryl, still convinced it's a game, also states she's getting annoyed at the game, and Dougie tells his father to put him down or he'll have Satan spill his guts. Dougie's father says to him that he can go ahead and try because he's an avenging angel and he has God on his side. And that's when Dougie calls out, Satan, come spill his guts. Satan pops out of the side, puts a knife into Mr. Woolley's guts, and cuts them right open.
And this is the moment that all of our main characters realize what's happening is real and bad.
And not only does he spill his guts, he also ties them to a chair.
Yeah, for some reason.
So Dougie, realizing it's not a game, starts to cry as Meryl tells Dougie to run. Satan then grabs a pie cutter, returning to Meryl, brandishing it as Jenna goes to the kitchen to call the police. We see footage of the police station, which shows multiple cops dead with like their heads completely wrapped in saran wrap or tape. And we also find out that the police station is in fact on fire.
Well, I mean, if you're going to burn it all down, you may as well literally burn it all down.
So Jenna gives up as Dougie calls to her, and that's when she returns to the dining room to find her mom missing. She calls to Dougie. Dougie comes out of hiding, telling Jenna that Master lied about it being pretend and that it's all real, and that's when she asks him where Mom is, and Dougie states that he took her with him. And she tells him that she's going to go after him and to hold down the fort till she gets back, and Dougie's like, no, don't go. And she's like, don't worry, I'll be back. Hold on to this for me.
And she hands him the little flower wreath that she's wearing on her head.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets pretty nuts because Satan has now taken their mother, wrapped her in packing tape to the point where she can barely breathe. Her mouth is wrapped and the top ridge of her nose is wrapped.
Yeah.
So she could just barely breathe, as well as her arms wrapped to her side. And to the people at this big fancy party down the road, to their credit, they seem to think that that's just a costume that makes sense to be I cannot for the life of me remember what the Chiquita name is.
But we also have Satan, who brandishes a piece of tape that he threatens to put over her nose if she doesn't act right.
Yes, which would then potentially suffocate her to death. And it's a very bizarre scene where he's driving her around. They arrive. They are getting their car valet parked, and as the valet opens the door for the young woman,
she falls out.
She falls out because she has no way to do anything. She can't even walk. Satan, of course, picks her back up, walks her over to their friends. Their friends are all just like, ha ha, look at you.
Look at your costume. It's a little weird, but it's funny.
Yeah. Oh, you're the devil. Oh, and you're a mummy?
Yeah.
Like, what?
And Satan also poses with their friends and grabs one of their breasts.
Well, because they made the joke that he was a horny
devil.
Satan. Yeah, because he had the horns on him.
So Jenna also has found the cop car out front of the house and sees the two cops are dead inside of it with their heads wrapped the exact same way. And that's when she decides that she's going to go to the party. And like Henrique said, they've arrived at the party by now, and Satan is dragging Meryl around. Back at the house, Dougie cowers inside the house as all chaos is broken loose outside with people destroying things, wreaking havoc. The doorbell sounds again as Dougie goes back to his room. He prays to God, apologizing for helping Satan, and asks him for help to send him back to hell. He finishes his prayer as the doorbell sounds again. Meanwhile, Alex dons a dragon costume because he's now caught up with Jenna, or a troll costume because he's caught up with Jenna, and he's like, we have to sneak into the party. He can't see us. So he's got a troll costume. Jenna has like a duck costume, basically.
Yeah, like a mascot duck costume.
And back at the party, we see Satan now in a room with Meryl as he's gathering up various household chemicals, and he grabs a bottle of Max Drano and puts it right into the party punch.
Hey, because when you need to kill a bunch of people, Max Drano
in the party punch
will take care of it. Yeah, he double spikes the spiked punch.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I mean, you can have a little Drano as a treat.
But a lot.
But a lot it's really going to clean your pipes.
That it will. So he grabs a cup and offers it to Meryl before her friends join them, and he also gives them some punch. We watch them take a sip as Jenna and Alex arrive to see the friends now all on the floor foaming at the mouth. They wander further into the party, catching sight of Satan, who identifies them right away by their shoes because they do not have anything covering them under their costume.
Yes.
So Satan puts the final piece of tape over Meryl's nose, pushes her into the crowd, and that's when it's just a giant game of basically keep away because she's trying to get people's attention and they're just pushing her. She falls to the floor. They pick her back up. Meanwhile, Jenna's racing over trying to get to her mom to free her. Finally gets to her, but can't get the tape off. She's like, does anybody have any nails? Anybody have a knife? Finally, she just pulls it down.
Well, and this is another great example of payoff because when her mother first sees her, she hugs her, gives her a kiss on the cheek, and then looks at her hands and goes, "You're chewing your nails again." And she's like, "Mom, don't embarrass me." So now as she's trying to get the tape off, she literally yells, "Does anybody have nails?" Because she can't at first. But at the last second, as it feels like Amanda Plummer is about to just conk out forever,
pulls the gag down,
gets
pulls
it right
the nose
off of her face.
Yep, and that's when Meryl lets out a deep breath as Jenna requests water. Jenna gives Meryl's friend scissors to cut her free and goes after Alex, who has disappeared now. In town, we see Satan wandering the streets, embracing the chaos that has broken free, but Alex sneaks up with a pistol that he got from the cop car, and that's when he asks him, who are you? Satan stares at him in silence, and Alex tells him to say something before he blows his fucking head off. Satan then raises his hand like he's going to hit him like his father, and that's when Alex goes, "Dad?"
And this is a great element of the psychology of the film because this character, what was his, Alex, every friggin' other word out of his mouth is how awful his dad is.
Dad beats him, dad abuses him. Yeah.
I have no doubt that his father is terrible.
Yeah.
But every other thing is about my dad is the worst, my dad is evil, my dad is this. So of course he would believe his dad is the guy killing everybody.
Yeah.
Also, he goes to acting school, so the world revolves around him. So obviously these killings are all because his dad wants to ruin his Halloween.
I mean, that makes sense.
I mean, it kind of actually does. As I say it out loud, it kind of does. But so yeah, he immediately, when he does the hand back, he's just like, it's dad.
And that's when he takes the gun from him, points it to his left hand, clearly his left hand, and shoots his palm. And Satan really doesn't react.
No, not at all. He just pulls the trigger and then hands the gun right back
to him. And that's when Satan wanders off, and that's when Jenna catches up with Alex, and Alex is like, Satan's my father. And she's like, well, how do you know? Did you see his face? And he's like, no. But he raised his hand in a certain way. It's a humiliation tactic to show he'll forever have power over me. And she's like, well, get in. So they go and drive over to Alex's house, where they find the Satan figure against the tree. Alex freezes, and Jenna takes the gun, going out of the car, telling him to put his hands on his head and kneel down. The Satan man does not move, so Jenna goes to fire, but by this point, Alex steps out of the car, grabs the gun, and fires like 6 shots into Satan.
He just unloads it. How many times?
6 times!
Yeah.
Halloween.
See, he got his cue, kids.
So,
hold on. Good work, David.
The Satan man slumps to the side as Alex goes up, removing the mask to reveal that it is, in fact, his father.
So
Jenna states he's in hell where he belongs. She's going to go home, get Dougie, and find the police, and tells Alex not to blame himself. He has only, that his dad is only to blame for himself, basically.
And you might think, dear listener, viewer, that we're about at the end.
Yeah.
False.
False indeed. Because back at the house, Dougie shouts at the doorbell as it sounds because he's not answering it, and then he thinks for a second. He's like, wait a minute, God can come as a trick-or-treater. So Dougie goes downstairs to open the door and finds a figure dressed as Jesus Christ.
And not only is he dressed as Jesus, he has a mask, a Halloween mask, a highly detailed mask, very similar to the Satan mask.
Yeah.
But this time, it's Christ's face with a crown of thorns. He has the robe on. And of course, as he puts his hand out, his left hand, the stigmata.
Stigmata's there.
Is bleeding right in the middle of his palm.
So Dougie's like, is that real blood? And the Jesus man nods his head. And that's when Jesus and Dougie leave the house, going to find Jenna. Dougie tells him to go get Satan and he'll protect his sister. So Jenna asks, didn't I tell you to stay home? And Dougie confirms, yeah, you did, but God showed up. And she's like, what do you mean God? And he's like, oh, no, it's really God. Look, here's his blood. And she's like, get in the car.
Well, and then she says, was the blood from his hand?
Yeah.
And when he says, yeah, she's like, get in the car right now. Oh, my God.
So Dougie confirms again that it was God, and Jenna asks who he is and what did he look like. Dougie says, it's Jesus, and tells her about the hand, and she's like, was it his left hand that was shot? And he's like, yeah, and she's like, that's not Jesus, that's Satan.
Yes.
So Jesus is Satan.
Yeah, well, that's what he says. So Jesus is Satan?
So
Great line.
that's when Meryl returns home, traumatized, of course, from the evening event, and Jenna realizes that Alex thinks Satan's is dead, so she goes to call his home. We cut to Alex's home, where we see the phone ring, and we also see his the secretary's body. Alex is outside staring at his father's corpse as Jesus quietly sneaks up behind him and starts choking him out.
Well, as he does.
Yes. So Jenna then tells Meryl that she's going to Alex, but her mother tells her no. The police from Bayview have been called to stay put, and also that she's already lost a husband tonight. She's not going to lose her daughter, too.
And this is where, I mean, my biggest complaint with the film is that people have, that it's been referred to as a horror comedy.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a horror comedy. I think it's a straight slasher with a lot of black humor.
I think it's got a lot of black humor. Yeah, I would not call it a comedy.
It's a dark comedy at times, but it's really just a very clever slasher movie.
Yeah.
And I think calling it a horror comedy just doesn't do it justice properly.
So suddenly glass break sounds, and that's when Meryl states that she thinks he's down in the basement. Dougie confirms that's how he gets back to hell as Jenna arms herself with a fire poker and makes her way to the basement. Dougie behind her tells her, well, why can't you just let him go back to hell? And she's like, listen, he killed our father. I wrote it down. Therefore, his ass is fucking grass.
Yeah, it's time to get that vengeance.
So Meryl, armed with a butcher knife, and Jenna with a fire poker make their way downstairs, leaving Dougie upstairs. They find a flashlight on the ground, which Meryl picks up, and they make their way through the basement, looking around. Back to back, they turn. Suddenly, Jenna hears dripping water, and she goes to find a sink and goes over to turn it off, catching sight of Jesus in the back of the room. So then she charges at Jesus with a fire poker, starts hitting him. Meryl drives the knife into him repeatedly. They both get their rage out on him.
Oh, they are unleashing the beast.
So now covered in blood, Jenna hugs her mother and then goes to remove the Jesus mask as we find Alex with his mouth taped up behind the mask. So she sadly embraces him as we hear a helicopter sound. Dougie goes outside to try and flag the helicopter down, despite his mother telling him to stay put. The helicopter flies out and Dougie goes to the cop car using the radio to call to the helicopter when suddenly an officer appears by the car.
Thank God, finally a cop when you need one.
And Dougie's like, oh, are you here? You heard my call? And that's when the officer shakes his head.
Nods,
damn it. Embraces him and takes his hand as he leads him up to the house. And that's when Dougie is like, hey, Mom, don't worry. The police are here. It's safe. So Meryl invites the cop in as she opens the door. He stops as we see that he is now wearing a mask.
But we never see it straight on.
We see a string.
We just see that we see the edge to know, but it looks like it's just a flesh tone man's face with a policeman's hat.
Yeah.
And the full uniform, including a gun.
Yeah. So he stops for a second as they're outside the house because their address is 66. So what does he do? He takes out a bottle of black spray paint and spray paints a 6 to make it 666 as he goes into the house. The camera pulls out. The screen goes black as we hear Jenna go, Mom? Why doesn't he say something? And Dougie replies, he's afraid Satan will hear him. And that, my friends, is 2004's Satan's Little Helper.
A truly a gem of an era when the movie really didn't make sense to be made. But goddamn, I'm so glad people are digging it now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so glad people are appreciating it now. I don't think we'll be able to know how well it did because it was straight to video.
Yeah.
And those numbers are very much rarely reported. But I've loved this movie from the first time I've watched it, and I've loved it just as much every additional time. And I'm so glad that when I talk about it now, more and more and more and more people know about it. Yeah, absolutely.
Would you like to know some fun things about the film?
Absolutely not.
Too bad.
Fuck.
So the budget is estimated to be $650,000.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Shot in Long Island, New York, White Plains, New York, Yonkers, and Norwalk, Connecticut in July, and it has the Halloween feel created by the crew spreading dead leaves throughout the sets.
That would do it.
Yeah. Shot on the exact same camera as used for Star Wars Episode 1. Listed number 6 on Rolling Stone's 13 terrifying horror movies you can't unsee.
Well, that is, I'll give Rolling Stone some credit on that one.
A special camera rig was built for the scenes involving Satan pushing Dougie in the grocery store parking lot. A smaller person was also substituted for Alexander, the actor who played Dougie during the scenes involving Impact.
It makes sense so that he wouldn't get hurt.
Yeah. For the scene where Satan throws a man through a glass door, a ramp was built for the actor to run up as the window would pre-shatter before impact, so the impression from the other side would display the man being thrown through it.
That's clever, yeah.
The inspiration from Satan's Little Helper came from an experience where Jeff Liberman had his 50th birthday party where someone showed up in a gorilla suit, unbeknownst to him. Figuring it was just a friend, Lieberman interacted with the gorilla, figuring that it was just a specific friend until he saw that friend at the party out of the costume and the gorilla at the same time. Turned out another friend had sent Lieberman a gorillagram, so the figure turned out to be a hired stranger. Merging this experience with his idea for a serial killer who displays bodies as decor on Halloween, Lieberman had his inspiration for the film.
That would creep me out.
Yeah.
I mean, that would definitely creep me out.
Lieberman had found a picture of the Satan mask El Diablo online and printed it out to look at while he typed the screenplay. However, when production was starting, Lieberman hadn't secured the mask yet, and production started showing him different masks in its place. Lieberman lobbied hard for the mask, which by this point was discontinued and unavailable, so Jonathan Fuller, the original mask maker, was contacted but had no copy of the mask. Through a collector, he had connections, and Fuller was able to secure a copy of the mask. It had 3 molds struck and sent to production, where the effects lead, Anthony Pepe, would spruce it up and make it ready for film.
I mean, when you have the right mask, you have the right mask.
Yeah. Alexander, who was only 8 years old at the time, went to his audition and was greeted by a man in the Satan mask when he walked in. He immediately began to cry, but still delivered his lines, ending up getting the role. The cinematographer recalls that Alexander was a precocious child who was very prepared and easy to work with. He also recalls that due to the night shoots, the days would go pretty long. However, they would get a warning that Alexander was about to crash at about the 15 to 20 minute mark. Before his energy was depleted, he would begin to sing show tunes.
Well, one thing people, I mean, of course, if you have children, you probably know this, but one thing people don't realize about working with children is people always think like, oh yeah, children, they have tons of energy.
Yeah.
Not when it's focused.
No.
When it's focused, they run out.
Yeah.
They run out pretty quick because they're just little people, little shitty people. But really, so I've heard of movies where child actors have fallen asleep and literally they'll go, hey, it's time. And they'll lift their head up and just be like, and just say their lines and then go back to sleep. So
the video game Satan's Little Helper was always an idea in the screenplay to introduce the story's villain. However, before production, the team who was originally supposed to design it backed out. Lieberman had to scramble to find a group to create the game who ended up being able to pull the design together in 72 hours.
Well, I mean, it kind of looks it, but I do think it's charming as hell.
Yeah. According to Lieberman, while Amanda Plummer was a total pro, he would continually get tested by her and asking what she wanted from him in the scene. Lieberman stated he is grateful that this was his 5th movie and not his first, as his experience allowed him to be able to handle her style of working.
Well, she definitely seems like she'll take whatever she can get and run with it.
Yeah.
And I think she did quite a bit because she plays the mom it's Amanda Plummer, but she plays her real quirky.
Oh, yeah.
Like super duper quirky.
Due to the actor in the Satan mask constantly performing in it, during production, modifications were made daily to the mask so adjustments for airflow and eyesight could be made for his scenes.
Quit crying.
The sink reveal in the basement was the idea on the spot of the cinematographer. When they were shooting the basement climax with the Jesus figure appearing, Dijon noticed the sink dripping, which would serve as a character motivation for her to go check the sink where the mirror was already hung that would serve as the reveal moment.
That's a great moment.
Yeah. Lieberman prided himself on being able to direct anyone who had to stand in for the Satan. Later in the shoot, one scene in particular he had fond memories was the murder of the old woman at the glass door. Lieberman was, the woman who gets hung. Yeah. Lieberman was directed his AD who donned the Satan mask for that scene. Lieberman got to experience the film for the first time with an audience at the Tribeca Film Festival. South America and Spain refused to carry the film due to its use of Satan in its title. Walmart also refused to stock the title for that same reason.
Until they took the bootleg.
Yeah. Funny enough, right?
Whoops.
Lieberman wanted the film to be Lieberman wanted the film to be as offensive as possible while also retaining its humor, as that was key to getting away with some of the jokes.
I could see that for sure.
Lieberman states the call sheets and the production name while in town was The Little Helper. However, towards the end of shooting, the town got wind of the real title and put up signs that read, "Go to hell, Lieberman. Don't come back. Good riddance," when production was done.
I mean, hey, at least they spelled your name right?
Yeah. The castle used for the Halloween party scene is in Yonkers, New York, while the grocery store was shot in Mount Vernon, New York, and has since gone out of business, now standing abandoned.
Okay. I mean, and that raises one of the most important questions of the film.
What's that?
That party at the end. They rented this big tower with all these people. Why did they care about a quiche? Like, why would she bring the quiche to a party with like 85 people?
I do love when she arrives and she's like, "Where's the quiche?"
Yeah, and she looks so mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's the quiche? So that's I wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, that's fair. And lastly, Lieberman made sure that all the sets were within walking distance because he didn't want to do a company move when they had to change sets.
I mean, when company moves are incredibly time costing.
Most of the neighborhood stuff was shot in the White Plains area. On the Blu-ray, he actually has a feature where he goes around with the Satan mask on his hand, which talks to him, and goes to all the different locations and shows them.
Yeah, Lieberman's a trip. He's a really cool dude, and he's hilarious.
Oh, he is.
I really do adore this movie. I am really so glad people are enjoying it in mass nowadays.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's readily available to stream. I'm glad it has a proper Blu-ray. I never in a million years would have guessed it was shot in HD because of that time period. So having a Blu-ray and getting to see it, even if there are 3 shots with a dead pixel on them, I'm cursed. It's my own fault.
I know.
I love it, and I was so glad to get to watch it in proper HD and see all the detail that was in especially those nighttime scenes.
Absolutely.
So just wanted to say, really happy with the Satan's Little Helper Blu-ray, and if you're that kind of person, you should get yourself one.
Yeah, it's a rent it for me with a caveat to buy it if you're a physical media collector. The bonus material on this disc is pretty well stacked with the documentary. There's some extras that came off the DVD as well. Also, Lieberman, like Enrique said, is a trip to listen to. Satan's Little Helper is just a film that wreaks havoc on your brain because you really do not know where it's going.
Yeah, it turns and turns and spins and turns, for sure.
And it's so Halloween-y. It's so out of its goddamn mind. It's so much fun and very morbid if you're into that, in that humor style.
There you go. Yeah. The kind of thing you like
if you like that kind of thing.
For me, it's definitely a rent it. I mean, if you're a physical media collector, you probably should buy it, but it's definitely a rent it. If you're the kind of person like me who needs to watch Halloween time movies at Halloween, you may as well just buy it because you're going to want it in your rotation almost every year, if not every year. It's a lot of fun, but it's also scary. It's also kind of gross. It's also funny. It's just a joy. It's really incredibly fun film.
And speaking of other Halloween movies, we always like to end the show with a couple recommendations. My first one this week is 2016's The Barn. 2 friends' Halloween celebration takes a sinister turn when their detour to an abandoned barn unintentionally unleashes a malevolent force hell-bent on annihilating their group. This is a really fun indie that came out, almost about a decade ago now.
Yeah.
That I cannot recommend enough. The Barn really holds up and has a great soundtrack and score as well. The other one I'm going to recommend is 2015, Tales of Halloween. 10 stories are woven together by their shared theme of Halloween night in an American suburb where ghouls, imps, aliens, and axe murderers appear for one night only to terrorize unsuspecting residents. Cameos galore. The stories are fun. This is one that just has aged way better on each watch with us.
It was an incredible amount of fun. When it came out, I was a little underwhelmed.
Yeah.
But then I watched it with a bunch of friends around Halloween, and I really clicked with me. So my suggestion, after a lot of thought, honestly, is 2002's American Nightmare.
Good call.
Because while they're not thematically that similar, it's another killing spree on Halloween night.
Yeah.
Where it's extremely psychological. The killer has thought out tons and tons of twists and turns.
Yeah.
And you never quite know what's going on until the end. And even then, you don't entirely know.
And just recently got a Blu-ray as well.
Yeah, and it's available to stream nearly everywhere now. Another one that was really hard to find for a really long time.
Yeah.
It's directed by John Keyes. It stars Debbie Rochon in what I think is one of her finest performances just because she's so incredibly good at being absolutely berserk.
Absolutely agree on that.
So that would be my suggestion, and just a general great Halloween time movie to watch.
So do we have any emails today?
We don't. Yeah, we do. Let's see. We actually have quite a few.
Oh.
Okay, we'll start with this one. So this one is, this one says, begging for this movie is the subject line.
Okay.
It says, hey, this is Corey. Big fan of the podcast and best friend to David.
That is correct.
Thank God I don't have to carry that banner. What I want so badly is for you guys to watch this movie and then talk about literally everything about it and give me your honest thoughts and opinions. I cried. This movie means everything to me. Also, those double-wicked candles, although I think, wicked and wicked are the same word.
Yeah.
Kind of. Used to light many of the scenes. I want those like yesterday. And the film is The Pale Blue Eye.
Pale Blue Eye. I've heard about this.
Is that based on the Poe story?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Oh, did that come out on Netflix like 2 years ago?
Let's find
The
out.
Pale Blue Eye? Wasn't there one with like some major actor starring
Christian
in it?
Bale?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's Pale Blue Eye.
Oh, okay. I thought that was on Netflix or something. I did miss that.
I feel like I watched it but I can't remember.
I don't think you did. David is a liar.
Shut up.
Well, no, it's just a part of who you are.
Shut up.
You're a liar.
Yeah, 2022. Christian Bale. I feel like I've seen this, but maybe I can't remember. I've seen a lot of.
It looks
Poe
good.
movies. Yeah, it does.
Well, Corey,
that's definitely an option we'll look into.
It's up to David. If he says that means no.
Shut up.
Well, she would know.
Oh my God.
So this next one, is from an anonymous commenter or anonymous emailer. I am a big fan of both Weekly Spooky and also Do You Even Movie. I am 11 years old and came across your podcast via asking my Alexa for podcast recommendations.
Okay.
Well, hey, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I am not asking you to tone down your cursing. I do not care how much you curse. It is your podcast. Do what you want with that. But I am asking that at the end of the episodes, please give some more PG-13 horror recommendations.
Okay.
Because I like horror movies, but my parents do not let me watch R-rated movies yet.
Fair enough.
Makes sense. So bye, thank you in advance, and keep making the show. P.S. Sorry about your dogs. Thank you very much. Well, David, I know. Oh man, you have a whole friggin' list.
I may have just made a little list.
Young man, get out your pen, paper, pencil, whatever.
So these are just a few that I think you and I would both recommend for that matter. First off, 1979's Tourist Trap.
Oh yeah, Tourist Trap. That's PG.
It's PG, and there's parts of it I don't know if it would still be PG today.
No, it would be PG-13.
Yeah.
Maybe even R.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark from 2019.
That's a really fun one.
I thought that was a lot of fun. The Visit from 2015.
One of M. Night Shyamalan's best returns to form.
Yep. Insidious from 2010.
That's a good one too.
Split from 2016. As I run into the light or the
How did you hit the microphone like that?
My hat.
You're drunk.
A Quiet Place 2018.
Yeah.
Arachnophobia from 1990.
That one is really fun. Arachnophobia.
Truth or Dare from 2018, the Blumhouse one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Critters from 1986.
Yeah, Critters
and if
is
you
a
like
really
Critters,
good one.
Gremlins, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Monster Squad, 1987.
Hell yeah.
Yep. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie in 92. Not a lot of people know it was a movie first.
That one's fun.
Poltergeist from 82. Tremors from 1990.
All the Tremors movies are at worst rated PG-13.
PG-13, yeah.
Tremors movies would be a great thing for you to watch. They're all over streaming. Tremors is a great one.
The Boy from 2016.
I like The Boy.
Drag Me to Hell, 2009.
I need to give that one another chance.
I do too, actually. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark from 1988.
Yeah, that is PG-13.
Yes, it is.
I'm surprised.
Death Becomes Her, 1992.
Okay.
I mean, it's a little up there.
No, I like that one.
And last, Happy Death Day, 2017.
Oh, that's a great film.
Happy Death Day is
I
so much fun.
revisited that not long ago and loved it.
So much fun. So yeah, there's a few for you. If you want any more, feel free to write in. There's plenty more that we can go through, but those are at least the top for you that I've got.
David prepared.
I did.
You feeling okay? All right, so we got two more.
Okay.
This one is from our good buddy Wolf Dan.
All right. Oh no.
The subject line is Election Day, winky face.
Oh God, okay.
Happy Halloween, homies. In the spirit of Election Day coming up, I wanted to stir the pot a little and offer up the obviously politically charged sci-fi chiller, They Live. One of the most fun 80s sci-fi chillers. I even found a pair of glasses as a kid that resembled the ones in the movie and wore them all the time. It also has one of my favorite lines that I've actually used in my boss's office. I have come to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Love what you guys do every week. Stay spooky. I would love to talk They Live.
Yeah.
Because then I get to talk about Rowdy Roddy Piper for 20 minutes
I was gonna say.
without being interrupted.
And that would probably be a 2025 episode at this point because we are pretty full for the rest of the year.
It's true. Well, you should be taking notes.
I am. Don't worry.
Just not with your hands.
No.
With your butt. With your butt
mentally.
cheeks. With your butt cheeks.
It's so sharp up here.
Butt cheeks. All right.
Butt cheeks?
Butt cheeks. All right. And we got one more from our good buddy Trank.
Okay.
Trank wrote in the subject line, Dark Night of the Scarecrow. So that means he just watched it or listened to it. Hey guys, it's Trank. Just listening to the episode. Y'all did a great job. I watched it on Tubi. Speaking of TV movies that changed the world, I'd like to nominate The Day After. I have heard... I've seen The Day After. That one's scary.
Yeah.
The movie that helped contribute to the end of the Cold War.
Yeah.
Great cast and gritty story. I have it on DVD, which I was lucky to find.
Trank, if you have not seen Threads from 1980 or 70?
I'm not sure when it came out, but that's a good one.
BBC TV movie basically about what happens when a fallout occurs. And it is chilling. It is really well done. And you will not get that movie out of your head after you watch it.
But The Day After would be a cool one to cover in the new year for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you, Trank, for writing in. And if anybody out there wants to write in, it's easy. Just send an email to doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com or go to doyouevenmovie.com and send an email that way. Both ways are totally acceptable.
Would you like to know what we're talking about next week as we wrap up the Halloween season on this episode and move into our Thanksgiving movies?
Well, I'm not thankful.
Well, you're not thankful.
Good luck.
I mean, I think you're thankful for this movie because this movie kind of became a staple for our Thanksgiving marathons.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I was like, well, nothing's going to be a bigger downer than The War at Home. And then the ice storm was like, hold my dead child.
That is correct. The ice storm from 1997. Hold my dead child. Wow. Spoilers.
You don't know which child. There's plenty. Some get killed. Some get molested. Some you don't know.
The Ice Storm from 1997, a really, really good drama period piece that features Kevin Kline, Elijah Wood, Sigourney Weaver. I mean, there's a lot of people in this movie.
You should commit to reading the book before so that we can know what the differences are.
I'll check the Wikipedia.
I have the audiobook. I haven't had a chance yet.
How many hours is it?
It's like 9 or 10.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna go through the Blu-ray because that Criterion disc is loaded.
Wow, Criterion did some extras, huh?
Yeah.
Shit.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Smart ass.
But before we go, I want to say, first of all, thank you guys so much for making this one of the greatest Halloween seasons for Weekly Spooky and Do You Even Movie.
Yes.
We really do appreciate it. If you're listening to this on Weekly Spooky and you want to listen to Do You Even Movie every single Tuesday, head to doyouevenmovie.com, subscribe directly to the podcast feed there. And also, if you're listening to this on a podcast, make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening to.
Yeah.
Leave a 5-star rating. And if you're watching us over on YouTube, please leave a like, leave a comment. The comments really help kind of keep things rolling and moving. And subscribe because, can't stop, won't stop, I believe. So that's all I have to say as we wrap up quite
a month.
The spooky season.
Yes.
My Lord.
It was a lot of fun, and we also want to wish you, of course, a safe and fun, happy Halloween this year as we, tomorrow's Devil's Night, isn't it?
Yeah.
My favorite holiday.
You quoting something?
The Crow. Here's to Devil's Night.
I don't remember that. I mean, I remember the SoundCloud rapper falling in love with the girl in Rehab.
The Good Crow.
When he says it?
The Good Crow movie.
Oh, the one with Eddie Furlong.
The one with Eddie Furlong. Can't read all the time, yeah.
Okay, good.
Fucking asshole.
Yeah. But thank you guys so much. And, I guess all that's left to say is we'll see you next
Tuesday.
Satan.
Nope. Oh, damn it. Satan?
Oh, yes. Shh. He'll hear you.